What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Terrible. Thanks for asking. So, if you're not interested in hearing anything about my credentials or anything about the channel, just skip ahead to the next timestamp. Don't worry, I won't be offended. I won't even know. So, if you're wondering, who the hell is this guy, and why should I listen to anything he has to say? Well, for one, what are you picking on me for, man? You clicked on the video. I'm just some random dude on YouTube the algorithm thought you might find interesting. And I guess that also means you're new here. So welcome. Where you been? You now join a legion of tens of people that have been here before you. Just think, one day you'll be able to say, I was there before he sold out. And if you are new to the channel, hey, I'm the Let's Make Shit guy. I'm a random old guy that decided to start tinkering with electronics at this, my later stage in life. And while I may be a self-proclaimed novice to most of this hobby, I have been, for what's been like 30 years, an HVAC technician / electrician, specializing in figuring out those problems the other guys can't. So yeah, basically I find shorts in control boards and wiring harnesses. It's what I do. I've been doing this all my adult life. So, while what I do is not exactly the same as being an electrical engineer, it's more like along the lines of being a car mechanic as opposed to an automotive engineer. I know my way around these tools just as well as all those guys do. Except, I just never got into the design side. Which is why I'm here on YouTube. I figured since I'm going to expand my skill set, why not share the journey? Everybody else is doing it, right? Why not me? Maybe people will see my enthusiasm for the hobby and want to get into it for themselves. Hey man, crazier things have happened. And hey, if you are a regular to the channel, welcome back. In honor of my 1-year anniversary on YouTube, I'm thinking it's time to kick the channel up a bit. Now, while I believe my video's production quality is passable for what the channel is, I've been thinking my videos are just a little too impersonal. Just an angelic voice tickling your ears, explaining what the set of disembodied hands you see are doing on screen? Come on, amateurish at best. For me, it's time to move on to something a little different. And by different, I mean now you have to stare at this mug in whatever corner of the screen I put it in from video to video. This is my first time working without a script and being on screen, so go easy on me. Expect a lot of stutters, flubs, or just dead silence as my mouth tries to catch up to my brain. Hey, it should be entertaining in the least. So, in honor of my first appearance, I say what should have been, or should be, that first line of code that you're going to eventually write, or wrote. What? Did you actually write Hello World? Come on, man. It's in quotes. You could have wrote anything. Oh yeah, one more thing. Occasionally, you're going to hear this sound. That's just a Let's Edit Shit guy putting in his 2 cents or correcting a very poorly worded explanation. Don't crucify me too much about this first one. It is, after all, my first one. Not working with a script is going to be rough for me. So with that, let's get on with the show. So, here it is. This kit, or one just like it. This is all you're going to need when first starting out. This kit has almost everything you need, and the best part is, it's probably only around 20 bucks on Amazon. Now, a lot of other pros and other electronics YouTubers are going to say, don't waste your money on this garbage. And you know something? They're dead wrong. This thing is 20 bucks. So let's say you buy it, you play around with it for a couple of days or weeks, and you find you just don't like soldering. It's not for you. Throw it out. Give it to someone. It's 20 bucks. Who cares? Why drop anywhere from 100 to 150 bucks on a decent one? Even if you have the money to throw around, you're not a professional. You don't need it. Give that extra cash to the homeless guy in front of 7-Eleven. Now, that being said, this is not the greatest. But let's go over everything that's in here, and I'll explain how they work and how to use them, and why almost everything you need is in this little kit. Alright, so here's everything in the kit laid out. I know most people are going to know what most of these tools are, but let's run through them anyway, just for super beginners who have no idea what some of this stuff is. Also, this kit came with a stand for the soldering iron, but I can't find it. It probably got thrown away or something like that over the long time I've had this kit. But I'll start with the tools, then we'll move over to the consumables, and yeah, let's get on with it. Can't keep you folks here all day. Side cutters. Always going to need a good pair of side cutters. These are for cutting excess leads off resistors and capacitors and stuff like that off a board, getting that board nice and flush. You can also, cut wire with it. These are pretty sharp. Got nice heavy rubber handles, nice and thick. Got a good spring to it. Nice. Also with a bind, you can strip wire if you got skills. That took years of practice, my friends. But yeah, always going to need a good pair of side cutters. Now I made a mess. Tweezers. You're going to learn to love tweezers. Especially if you're like me and you don't have any fingernails, because you obsessively bite them or pick at them because there's something wrong with your brain. But yeah, tweezers. They're tweezers. They're for picking up stuff. Like that. Or a resistor or things like that. They come in all different shapes and sizes. For electronics, you're going to want... Can you see that? These are ESD 15s. They're bent tips. The 15 is just, like, I guess a model number. But ESD stands for electrostatic discharge. They basically coat these with some kind of chemical that prevents static. So it won't build up static electricity. Let's be realistic. In this cheap of a kit, $20, as I said before, they probably cheaped out somewhere, so these probably aren't going to be the greatest with building up static electricity. But unless you're going to start off by fixing computers, you really got nothing to worry about. I mean, you're just going to pick up small things and then throw them over your shoulder because you don't know what else to say while you're recording this. But yeah, if you do continue on with the hobby, you're going to want to invest in a nice set of tweezers, especially reverse tweezers. Do I have a pair? Yeah, I have a pair. These are basically reverse tweezers. You squeeze them to open them, and then they'll hold something in there for you without you having to hold it. We'll get into these another time. All right, tweezers out of the way. X-Acto knife. I mean, it's an X-Acto knife. It's a razor blade on a stick. Good for scraping stuff, cutting paper, making grooves, maybe cleaning up a PCB board that you got to clean the mask away. Technical stuff. We'll get to it. But yeah, you probably have one of these in your junk drawer. Screwdriver, precision, 2-in-1, flathead, and Phillips. This doesn't feel too bad. It's insulated for electronics. Oh, look, a clip for your pocket protector. It's a screwdriver. You screw screws in with it. Desoldering pump, otherwise known as a solder sucker. This is basically a reverse syringe. You would, if you have extra solder on the board, you would cock back down, heat that solder up, and it'll suck it right off the board. We'll get into more of this stuff, into more detailed explanations, when we're actually soldering. The soldering iron itself. I'm going to be honest, this is not the greatest soldering iron in the world. It does have a temperature control, temperature dial. It says it goes up to 450. This is not the greatest style. I mean, listen, it's $20. This will get the job done when you're first starting out. How can I explain this? If you stick with the hobby, and later on down the line you buy a better soldering iron, you're going to appreciate that so much more because you've used this. It's like if you've had like a cheap like Ryobi drill or something like that, and then, you're like, oh, I want to invest in something nice. So you buy a Hilti or a Festool, and after using it, you're like, how the hell did I use that crap all of these years? Yeah, same thing. But this, it's going to do what it needs to do. It might not be the best, but it gets the job done. Now for the consumables. Let's clean this up a little bit. Tips. Soldering tips are consumable. They're going to wear out. They're going to lose their coating. They're consumables. What are you going to do? They're in this style, they're cheap enough. I think you can get a kit like this, which comes with, it probably came with 6. It looks like one's missing. You're going to get 6 in a pack for like $4. Especially if you get it on Alibaba, AliExpress, whatever that thing is called these days, Amazon, whatever. There's many different style tips. This has a conical, a fine point, a knife edge, I guess a screwdriver, a smaller conical. Again, we'll get more into this stuff when we're soldering. Wet sponge. There's a lot of controversy, maybe is a good word, about using a wet sponge when cleaning your solder tip. This is for cleaning your solder tip. It probably came with a case, but again, who knows? This kit's 8 years old. Basically, you wet this, and then when you want to clean the solder off the thing, do this. But what happens is, it's thermal shock. You're making something that's 450 degrees or 400 degrees cold and wet instantly. So you're basically, what's going to happen is you're going to get microfractures in the tip. It's going to take the coating off. We'll get more into why you shouldn't use this later and what you should use. Solder. This is 0.08 millimeters, 0.031 inch thickness. This is leaded solder. It's 6040 tin alloy. It's also 2% rosin core. Inside, can you see that? Solder is basically, especially this one, there's a flux in the solder. So when you're soldering on the board and you heat it up, that flux will keep oxidation away from the solder and make that joint extra strong and make it look nice and shiny. Again, when we're soldering, I'll go more into it. Oh man, look at this tape. You see that? This tape has got some age on it, man. What did I say? This kid is 8 years old? 7 years old? This is electric tape, black tape. Its actual name is polyvinyl chloride tape. It's what electricians use. You know, it's rubber tape made out of plastic. Well, polyvinyl chloride to be exact. It's for taping off wire nuts. It's electric tape, man. Everybody knows what electric tape is. Wire. Why this kit came with wire, I don't know. This is 0.10 millimeter, so 36, 38 gauge. For motors, making motor windings, inductors, transformers. At this gauge, it's probably going to be good for really fine PCB trace repairs. Why it's in this kit, I don't know. But now you have some wire. Solder wick. This is in the same category as the solder sucker. It's for when you make mistakes, or if you want to pull components off a board. This is 2 millimeter in width and 0.75 meters in length. So what is that, like 28, 29 inches? I don't know metric, man. Yeah, it's basically copper braid that you put it over the joint, you heat it up, and it sucks the solder right off the board. Again, when we're soldering, I'll explain more. And that's it for the kit. Comes with a nice little tool chest with a top piece. Like I said, for $20, you can't go wrong. This will get you started. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff that the kit doesn't come with, but that you're probably going to need. So let me clean this up a little bit, bring out that other stuff, and then after that, we'll get soldering, man. So, here's the rest of the stuff that we're going to need when we're first starting out. Most of this stuff is relatively inexpensive. I think everything here, including the soldering iron kit, was 95 bucks. That price is from a few years ago, but I looked some of this stuff up, and some things are actually cheaper. The soldering iron kit is like $15, and alcohol's gone down, Flux has gone down. But anyway, let's run through the rest of this stuff, and then we'll get to some soldering. This is flux paste. Do you need this? No. Does it help? 1,000,000%. This is going to keep oxidation away. It's going to make that joint nice and shiny. It's going to make it stronger. It's going to keep the solder where you want it to stay. With today's solders, especially getting the cheap stuff from Amazon and Alibaba and Temu and stuff like that, it's not great quality, so just use the Flux. It's cheap enough. I think you get a 4-pack of these for $16. But you just take this, you spread it out on the board. It's gel-like consistency. I don't want to put that on my hand. It's a gel-like consistency, if you can see it. If you've ever watched the channel before, I always joke about how this is not no clean, even though it's advertised as no clean. But hitting it with a little alcohol and then scrubbing it down, everything looks so much better when you use Flux. I didn't want to put it on my hand, but I still put it on my hand. Oh well. It comes in 2 styles. This is syringe type. This isn't a sharp syringe. It's just a tube, basically. It's like a turkey baster. This is the pen style. This is a little bit more expensive. This is name brand. I think this came from iFixit. But, yeah, it's just in the form of a pen. And then you wipe it on the board. I just like the gel Flux better. It seems like it works better. But that's my opinion. Who knows? Maybe you'd like this more. Try them both. They're cheap. $25 for the 2 of them. Can't go wrong. Tip tinner. This is for when your tips get really gross. It can't be helped. Even if you clean it all the time, they're going to get bad. Oxidation is just a natural occurrence. You're soldering it from what is, I said 450 before, that's Celsius. You're soldering it basically 700 to 750 degrees. Some people solder lower, especially low melt solder. But this stuff is magic. When that tip is all black, none of my tips are really in bad shape, so I can't even show you. You just dip it in here. And when it comes out, it's going to be all nice and shiny. That is when we're going to use the wet sponge. That's the only time I say that we should use the wet sponge, because this stuff is mildly corrosive. If you leave it on there with a residue, it's going to eat away at that coating on those tips. So yeah, maybe once a month, once every 2 months, if you're not soldering heavily, you open this up, dip it in there. You don't even have to rub it around. Just dip it in. This is a mixture of solder dust and Flux. You dip it in there. That tip will come out nice and shiny. Then wipe it off on the wet sponge. Then put the wet sponge away. And don't ever use it again until you have to tin the tip. Tin the tip. Tin the tip. Tin the tip. Next is your copper sponge. This is what you're always going to use to clean your soldering iron tip. It's steel wool, but it's made out of copper. If you're going to put that soldering iron down, oh, that's not good. If you're going to put the soldering iron down, right before you do it, clean it off. That's it. It's a copper sponge. Cleans your tip. Keep those tips clean, son. And I made a mess. Alcohol. Just buy it in a 32-ounce size. This came from Amazon. It was $9, 99%. You can use 91, but 91 just means there's 9% water in it. Water and electronics don't mix. This is just a repurposed, I think it was a perfume bottle, that I pour that into here, this way. I can spray alcohol without having to spill it on there. Just get 99%. It's like $2 or $3 more expensive, and it can't hurt. It can only help. This is an acid brush. I use it for cleaning the boards. Do we have a... This is just a prototype board. It's been used a little bit, but spray the alcohol on. Clean that flux off. Easy peasy. These are from a plumbing supply. You get them for like $1. You probably get a 12-pack for $10. Home Depot has them. Home Depot's going to be a little more expensive. Just go to your neighborhood plumbing supply. Get a dozen of them. $12. Can't go wrong. This is probably the second most expensive item on the table. It's a piece of metal with magnets on it. But its benefit is that it will hold your PCB. It's got little grooves in it that'll keep that in there. And there. Now you're nice and tight. And look at that. Now it won't skate all around the board. Think this was 25 bucks? It's a lifesaver. You don't necessarily need this, but it doesn't hurt. Now for the big boy, these are called helping hands. This is basically the same concept as this, except it's more easy to manipulate. Put that board in any position you want. Throw a resistor in there, throw anything, and it's going to hold it for you. Ever needed a third hand? Helping hands. Only $24.99 on Amazon. And that's pretty much all we're going to need. And with that, let's clean the area up again, and let's get to soldering. Oh, there is one thing else you're going to need when you're first starting out. Where is it? Oh, there it is. A practice kit. This, as always, came from Amazon, courtesy of China. This is just a basic soldering practice kit. It's a Christmas tree with LED lights in it. This is what we're going to solder on. I think this kit was $9. But yeah, let's get everything ready, and then we'll get to soldering. One more thing. Just because OSHA will yell at me if I don't show it to you. A fume extractor. Solder is made of lead. Lead is a neurotoxin. So in other words, you don't want to breathe it. I'm an 80s kid, so we dealt with leaded gasoline for most of our early life, so I've probably lost 10 to 15 IQ points because of that. But be safe. You don't have to get a $3,000 fume extractor. The one I have, I made. It's just a fan with a carbon-activated filter in front of it. If you're interested, I made a video on making this. It's a box with a fan in it, and in front of the fan is a carbon-activated filter. You can get cheap ones on Amazon for 25, 30 bucks, but they suck. This is a refrigeration fan. It's pretty heavy duty, and it moves. You'll see when I'm soldering, it'll suck that solder from at least 12 inches away. Those fumes stand no chance against this thing. Unless you're like 14 inches away, then it's screwed. This is a carbon-activated filter. If you're really worried, there's kits you could buy that'll duct it outside. But yeah, I made this. It's a box. You plug it in, 110 volts. And that's it, you set. All right, soldering time, baby. And we're back. All right, I'm going to run through how to set this soldering iron up, what temperature we're going to use. I'll run through the different style tips, and then we'll get to soldering on a prototype board. I think I'm going to save that that practice kit for the next video, because this one's getting a little long in the tooth. I think by the time I'm done with this section, it's probably going to be about a half hour. But yeah, let's get to it, man. All right. This is the retaining ring. This just unscrews. And there it is. There's your heater. That's what's going to get hot and transfers heat to the tip. As for the tips, I think this kit came with 4 different styles. Fingernails, remember. It's hard for me to open stuff. Alright, so I'll run through these. This, can you see that? That's a knife style tip. This is a conical or pointed. This is pretty fine. Usually that's probably the one that's missing, is the thicker one. This is for more precision work. Then we have the chisel. See that? I'll put pictures up in the left-hand corner. How about that? This is a chisel tip. This is the one I'm going to use. This is the one that I learned on and what's most comfortable for me when doing this kind of stuff. This is, what is this called again? A bevel tip. These are bevel tips. I call them the hoof, because they look like a hoof. When I switch cameras, I'll put them on there too. But yeah, for right now, I'm going to use that chisel tip. But this is it. Your heater, well, this slips right over the heater. Then you put the retaining ring back on. Tighten that thing up. And boom, you're ready to solder. After you plug it in, of course. I'm going to set this at... This is in Celsius. I'm going to set it a little under 400. But let me check my bullet points here. The optimal for leaded solder is 350 to 370 degrees Celsius. That's 692 to 698 for us normal people. That's for leaded solder. Yeah, leaded solder. For unleaded solder, just don't use unleaded solder. It's that simple. You don't need to use unleaded solder. You're not a multi-million-dollar corporation. Leaded solder is better. But as for the cons with this, like I said, I'm going to set this at like a little under 400 because of that heat transfer issue. Where it's just... There's other style soldering irons that are just better, but they're quite a bit more expensive, as are the tips. So that core heats up, and then it has to heat up the tip. And how is this supposed to tell what that tip is? So it's going to be a little off. But I'm going to set this a little under 400, and hope for the best. So let's undo this, plug it in. Also, another downside to these, which is not really a downside, it takes longer to heat up. It might take up to a minute, but I also found the stand. While that's heating up, let's get these tips out of the way. This is what we're going to be soldering on for right now. Like I said, I think it's better for another video for actually doing a practice kit. I could go into more in depth with the components and stuff like that and other tools we could use. But for right now, let's get our solder ready. Like I said, this is rosin core solder. There's flux in it, but it's cheap AF, so we're going to wind up using flux. Is this thing ready yet? Let's see. Not bad. First thing you're going to want to do is tin your tip. Put a little bit of solder on it, then clean it off. That's it. That's how you clean your tip. Don't worry about that wet sponge. Just use the copper wool. Tip is decently shiny. Tin it again. Now it's even shinier. That's called tinning the tip. You always want a nice fresh coat of solder on there. Keeps the oxidation away. Clean it again. And first starting out, no flux. This way I can show you the benefit of what flux does for you. So I'll do this quickly over here, and then I'll switch cameras so you have a nice close-up. But put it in there, hold it on for a second and a half. Boom. Soldered. Boom. It's that simple. Ooh. That's simple. Let's try a pad. There it is. That's it. All right, let me get the other camera set up, and then you'll see what it looks like close up. I'll try to make what they call a cold joint. Let me set the other camera up, then we'll get to it. Alrighty then. All right. How's that looking? Yeah, that's close enough, right? Yeah. All right. Now for a nice close-up. As you can see, those joints look a little dull to me. It could be the camera, but they're not nice and shiny. Let's do it again. Well, the tip's been sitting there for a minute or so, so what do? Clean it off. Tin it up. Clean it again for good measure. It don't hurt. So, as for the temperature settings, it's not something I can show you. It's something you're going to have to figure out by yourself. You know the optimal setting now, but it's just a feel. Like, I've been doing this long enough that looks pretty good. That it's muscle memory. That's the only way to explain it. You just get used to it. You've been doing it long enough. It's going to take time. It might take a couple of hundred joints, but you'll get there. It's not the hardest thing in the world. As they say, it's not rocket science. That looks pretty good. Now, let's do it with Flux. You know, for this one, I think I'll try it with the pen. I never used the pen. So, take the Flux pen, rub it on there, keep that away from your gun, and clean the tip. Spill some solder on it. Alright. Second. Still looking a little dull to me. Oh, no, from this angle it looks pretty good. There it is. See how those joints look just shinier? I don't know if you're going to be able to tell in the camera, but to me, it's just a nicer looking joint. Boom. 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 Simple. Do another pad under close-up. Oh, there's no flux in that. For this, we'll use the gel flux. Just a dab. Just a dab. Maybe I'll start trying to be like Bob Ross. Everybody loves Bob Ross. Also, I'm not using the... Oop. See what happened there? I overheated it. So this might actually be going the other way. So maybe let's lower this down a tad. Can we get that in focus? Not really. This is also a very cheap prototype board, so, and those pads are basically not connected to anything, but it was either too hot or just cheap. But either way, the pad came off the board. So we'll try it again. Clean the tip, as always. A little bit more flux. I set this to... Try that at 350. It might be going the other way. Like I said, it's a feel. Boom. Boom. There you go. Oops, he pulled. I think this is just. I think that's just. These are cheap. These are cheap prototype boards. It's just pulling the pads right off. They're not connected to anything. It's just a piece of tin laying on the board. I'm gonna have this set at 350. I doubt it's that far off. But yeah, now they all came off. Look at that. Now we know what happens if you use too much heat. So clean that tip. Can I make a cold joint? Let me see if I can make a cold joint. I might pause this for a second and let this cool off. But I doubt it. Also, if you need a quick cool down on your tip, you can just put it in here. That's copper that has very high heat absorption. I think that's a good way to say it. So it'll bring that tip temperature down quicker. Let's try it. Let's use a little flux. And nah. Alright. Yeah, I think it's just that this is a cheap prototype board because these round ones aren't coming out. But I also think this soldering iron is tending to be hotter than it says. Like I said, this is your first soldering iron. You're just learning how to do it with this. And I'm wasting all my solder. But yeah. Clean the tip. Especially with these cheap tips. That's what I said before. You just want to get used to this. That's why you should invest in a good soldering iron until you're used to it. Maybe you're going to find you don't like it. Who knows? But yeah. Alright. I mean, that's it. It's pretty easy. I can't get a cold joint, so can we make this even colder? You know, this temperature dial might not even work. Who knows? I took this thing apart. It does seem like it's okay. It's just a PCB with some resistors and a MOSFET, but let's try it now. It's still... That's it. No, I can't get a cold joint. I don't think this temperature dial is working so great. Alright, but as you can see, this is pretty easy. Now, let's say you filled in a couple of those holes by accident. Now what? Well, that's where our good friend the solder sucker comes in. Put a little flux on that board. You're going to cock that back. Heat that joint up. Put that as close as you can to it. That's it. Let's do it again for good measure. Which one? Which one? There you go. Heat that solder up. Get it as close as you can. Clean joint. That's how you clean a through hole with a solder sucker. Let's do it again. That's it. That's the solder sucker. Now as for wick or copper braid, again, put a little flux on that wick. It'll help everything out, make everything nice and smooth. If you're wondering why I keep looking above you, the screen for the camera is above it, is above the camera. And then drag it across. Cleans that board right up. You could probably see that the braid is absorbing the solder into it and also filling the holes back in. This is more for cleaning like SMD pads, smaller component pads. Now a lot of other pros and and globs of solder that are on the board. But yeah, that's solder wick. After it gets, you can see the solder is filled up that braid. Just take your side cutters and cut it off. Go back for more. But those holes are filled back up again, so just for giggles, there you go. So, that's how you solder. Super easy. Barely an inconvenience. There's the other side of the board. I had good penetration. It went all the way through, filled up the other side. Like I said, this is a feel thing. You have to get used to it. that's really all that could be said. I could show you how to do this 100 times, but until you do it for yourself, you're not going to know. And it might take you a few hundred joints before you get used to it. As for those pads, I'm chalking it up to just cheap prototype board, because that's never happened before, and I've never used these prototype boards before. Maybe I should grab a resistor and show you that. Alright, I'll pause this. Alright, I'll pause this. I'll grab a resistor or two, maybe a cap, and we'll put it in this board, and I'll show you what that looks like too. And then, I think that's it for this video. Let's see, where do I have resistors? Do I have any extras? Yeah, I got some extras over here. I got a resistor and a cap. Look at that. It's your lucky day. Oh, this is why I need tweezers, because, remember, fingernails. Let's use the other one. It's already been cut. So here's a resistor. We'll go to this for now. Put that in there. And in there. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're just doing this for a tryout. Actually, it does have to go a little bit over. Alright. Alright. That snap is not normal, but yeah. What I usually do is I usually just bend these out. For good measure, let's use that cap too. Over here, we'll put the cap in. Alright. Cap goes in there. Same deal. Bend them out. This way they don't fall out when you turn it over. Put it in your nifty little $25 PCB holder. Don't forget your flux. Am I in frame? Of course not. All right. Don't forget your flux. That's that. Tip's been sitting. What do? Clean the tip. Tin it again. Clean it again. I'm only repeating this so many times just so you'll never forget to clean your tip. Because if you don't clean your tips, they're going to get ruined 10 times faster. How's that? 10 times. Alright, so got a little flux on there. When doing a component like a through-hole component, well, with all components, you want to heat up the lead and the through-hole part, the ring, I guess you would call it, at the same time. So push them together. Whoop, there it is. To the other side. Let's do the resistor. And the other side of the resistor. Did I get it? Yep. Do that one more time. And that's it. Slide that out. Let's go up to here. And side cutters. Cut those extra leads off. Look at that. Now we have a nice, relatively flush joint. And because we used flux, what are we going to do? 99% alcohol. Clean it up. Flux is corrosive. If you leave it on, it might cause you problems later. And there it is. Now, I'd say go out, buy a practice kit, do a couple of hundred joints, take this soldering iron, throw it out and give it to somebody, and if you like it and you want to continue on with the hobby, buy a decent one. But, as you saw, this works. Can't complain. The temperature dial sucks. The heat transfer sucks. But it's going to build your skills. And with that, I'm out of here. I'll see you in part 2 where we go over some other stuff. And thanks for watching.